This is CBC Here and Now.
I have every intention of spending some time on the picket line with any potential strikers and encouraging my students to do so as well.
Talks continue with Memorial University and its faculty with the strike deadline looming for Monday. We'll have the latest.
The services for us for transportation is so outdated. We need to be brought into the 20th century.
Building roads to northern Labrador, we'll look at the study for extending the Trans-Labrador Highway and what it would mean for residents there. Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. Our top story tonight, we have a surprising development in a story that we've been tracking for weeks. The lights are officially out in the Outer Battery. Here and Now's Ryan Cook has been following this story from the beginning. He joins us now live from the Battery. So Ryan, what are you seeing down there?
Well, I'm not really seeing much, which of course is a stark contrast to where things stood even just yesterday. Residents here, of course, have been complaining about blinding lights that were set up by one resident for months now, and then all of a sudden last night, darkness.
Well, they went off at about close to 9 o'clock last night, and we all sort of looked up at each other and went, what? So we don't know why. We have no clue. They're just off. That's all we know.
The lights were set up by Colin Way, who owns a handful of properties in the Outer Battery, and they've been the subject of huge controversy. Christina Smith and her neighbors say they've been having trouble sleeping because they're so bright. The police charged Way with mischief, but he still refused to take them down. We still don't know why the lights were set up to begin with, and Way has never done an interview about it. But this neighborhood spat captured Canada-wide attention. It was on the National and in the pages of the Toronto Star. The city offered mediation, at which point Way reportedly asked for an apology from his neighbors in order to turn down the lights. The neighbors told CBC News that they scoffed at that proposal. People down here say they have no idea why now, why today, and if this blissful darkness is permanent.
We would welcome that for sure. I mean, it's been a hard slog for the past 9 months living in the glare of those lights, and I know that it'll be a huge relief to the whole community.
Now, we spoke with Bob Buckingham earlier today. He's the lawyer for Colin Way. He confirmed that the lights will be out at least for this weekend. Really gave no indication as to why the change of heart or how long this could last, but said that they could issue a statement at some point next week. So for at least the next 3 lights, it'll be darkness here in the Outer Battery. Reporting live for Here Now in St. John's, I'm Ryan Cook.
Well, there's confirmation tonight that 2 people died in a head-on collision on the Trans-Canada Highway yesterday. A pickup truck and an SUV collided east of the Wayscales at Gooby's just before 5 p.m. Police are trying to figure out what caused the accident. Both drivers died, a 46-year-old man and a 53-year-old woman. A passenger in the truck survived and was treated in hospital for injuries. And in Labrador, there's a search happening for 2 men. They left Northwest River Wednesday afternoon and were headed for Rigolette. Both men were traveling on one snowmobile. Search and rescue teams from Cheshire and Rigolette are looking for them.
Well, it was a windy night last night across a good chunk of the island. We saw those winds gusting anywhere from 150 kilometers per hour into the 120s for a good chunk of the west and south coast. And then eastern Newfoundland looks like it's spared most of the wind, but still seeing those gusts peaking in St. John's at about 91 kilometers per hour. This also brought some snow, especially up across Labrador. Makkovik picked up 34 centimeters of snow. Happy Valley Goose Bay not far behind that at 24 centimeters, and then much less as you head towards Wabush and even along the strait there. Only 7 centimeters of snow fell from this system. The reason for that is this area of low pressure that's heading offshore, which is also why the winds are easing as we set the stage for a ridge of high pressure to move in, and also some pretty chilly air. Just take a look at what's going to happen. Here's that cold Arctic air that's going to sink south. As we head into the next couple of days, we'll see a bit of relief tomorrow, though. Temperatures actually into the minus single digits up across the Big Land, but that cold air will eventually move in. We'll see some cold air across the island as well. The details coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, it's coming down to the wire with talks between Memorial University and its faculty. Professors are warning that without an agreement, they'll be off the job on Monday. Here Now's Peter Cowan is live in the newsroom tonight. So, Peter, what are the outstanding issues here?
Well, Carolyn, the good news seems to be that there has been some progress during negotiations this week. Sources say that the university has offered more money to address concerns from professors who say they haven't had a raise in more than 6 years. But they're still at odds over other issues like contract instructors and how the university is governed. One of the key issues is what's known as collegial governance, the idea that the academics are involved in the decision-making at the university. The union says they want to be informed on decisions that the university makes, and they point to Laurentian University in Ontario, which went bankrupt. The Auditor General there found that the university should have worked more closely and had more transparency with the union. With concerns raised about MUN's spending, the union wants a recognition that academics have a role in how the university is governed.
They don't even want the definition of collegial governance, which was part of our collective agreement in the past, to be inserted there. So it is very common. Dalhousie just signed their new deal like 2 weeks ago, and they have a much stronger language. So we are just asking as a stepping stone to have just the definition of collegial government inserted in the collective agreement. They're saying no.
So what happens on Monday if the strike goes ahead? Well, not all classes will be canceled. Hundreds of courses are taught by per-course instructors who are part of a different union. So those classes, unlike the last strike at Memorial University, are not canceled. That means those students and instructors will have to cross the picket line, which is a concern for those instructors.
They're making us disrespect our college picket lines, and Memphis issues are our issues. A lot of our contracts are tied together. We do support what they're doing, but we're being forced by the administration to cross that picket line. I have every intention of spending some time on the picket line with any potential strikers and encouraging my students to do so as well.
Now, the university has put out this guide for students on tips for safely crossing a picket line, and that's raised some concerns from the student union.
So this was a really disgusting thing to receive. It's absolutely not what we want to be seeing from the administration. Their efforts should be focusing on coming to a fair deal and, resolving this job dispute, making sure that MUNFA gets what they're looking for in a fair deal and creating a better university environment for all involved.
Now, a strike isn't a sure thing on Monday. The union and the administration plan to continue their talks through the weekend, right up until the deadline at 12:01 Monday morning. Reporting live from the newsroom, I'm Peter Cowan for Here and Now.
Well, a day after the price of all fuels jumped, we saw another price increase in certain fuels last night, and it's a huge increase. Diesel is 35 cents more expensive today. Furnace oil rose by just over 30 cents a litre across the province, and stove oil is up in Labrador West and Churchill Falls by nearly 42 cents a litre. The Public Utilities Board blames product shortage. Meanwhile, the MHA for Torngat Mountains says she's concerned about the rising price of stove oil and how it's affecting the people in her district in northern Labrador.
It's kind of ironic that when the province gets up in arms about the cost of fuel, and then we look at my district, we've already been living through that for months. Like this summer, we were froze at a price that was much higher than the rest of the province. And it's not only stove oil, it's gasoline. And gasoline is so important for us to be able to harvest wood that we use to heat our homes. So right now, the two sources of fuel, wood and stove oil that we use to heat our homes, is too costly, and it's really impacting families. That's probably one of the bigger complaints that I get, and I'm not really sure how people are going to actually manage the winter conditions.
The RNC is reporting a big drug bust, and they say it happened with the help of Canada Post. Police began an investigation this week into illegal drugs being brought into the province through the mail. Yesterday, police seized 3 kilograms of cocaine that's said to have a street value of more than $150,000. A 38-year-old man from Conception Bay South was arrested. And as we told you last night, the province has announced a contract for a pre-feasibility study on the construction of a road in northern Labrador. All North Consultants Limited will complete the study and report back to government later this year. Here now's Amanda Gear has more.
The study will look at what it would take to construct a road that will connect the Trans-Labrador Highway to communities in northern Labrador. It will assess the advantages and disadvantages of potential routes, costs, and the socio-economic impacts associated with the project. Torngat Mountains MHA Leela Evans says a highway that connects all the communities in her district would remove many barriers that her constituents face and may be key to improving the quality of life for the people that live there.
I think something needs to be done to improve transportation. Like really, the cost of food is too high. The cost of gasoline and stove oil is really impacting the quality of life, and the ability to travel, whether it's patient travel or passenger travel, to be able to visit, to be able to to shop and socialize. Like, we really need to be brought into the same level of service as the rest of the province.
Evans says her constituents have mixed feelings. Overall, most people support the project, but some worry that a road through Nunatsiavut may disrupt traditional hunting and fishing grounds.
There's things that we can put in place to mitigate that, to prevent that from happening.
Evans says that she believes this study is just the first step to improving services along the north coast of Labrador.
The services for us for transportation is so outdated, it's so archaic. Like, our transportation systems is the same as the rest of the provinces back in the 60s, right? And we need to be brought into the 20th century.
An improvement to services in northern Labrador has been an ongoing discussion for the province, and Evans, like many Labradorians, feels that it's time to put a plan in action. Amanda Gear, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, today is Family Literacy Day in Canada, and St. Kevin's Junior High in the Goulds invited some special guests to read to the students. A number of provincial politicians, the mayor of St. John's, some community volunteers, and even basketball player Carl English were on hand. This year's theme was Celebrate Your Heritage, and the annual event helps raise awareness about the importance of reading and engaging in other literacy-related activities as a family. Among the readers taking part this year was Here and Now's very own Jeremy Eaton, who spent time with a few 8th graders talking about the importance of reading.
Are making this into the most amazing creative downtown hub.
Well, the folks at MusicNL are moving into new digs. They're setting up inside an iconic downtown St. John's church. We'll get a close-up look when we come back.
Well, we have something fun in the sky over the next couple of days. We'll talk about the green comet passing Earth and also your forecast coming up.
While I was doing my radiation, my photography actually was my coping mechanism.
The crow was flying by Signal Hill and he had an egg in his mouth.
There's a bit of tension there sometimes, but I'm becoming very good at diffusing that.
I find black and white, it draws your attention into what's happening and you can kind of capture the emotions a little bit more.
You know, there are lots of things going on, chances for you to capture moments that people love to see.
This weather forecast has been brought to you by Newfoundland and Labrador Tourism. Whatever you're up for this winter, discover experience packages at winterupnl.ca.
Well, just before we get to the weather, PEI might set records this year for a lack of sea ice around the island. That's according to a senior forecaster with the Canadian Ice Services.
A lot of the water around PEI looks like this right now, still water, not ice. In fact, experts say there's less than 2% ice coverage around the province at the moment. In a normal year, the island would have about 15% ice coverage by now. Officials say this year could be a record low.
That's right. Here in Newfoundland and Labrador, we are well below normal ice conditions for this time of year, but we do have some cold weather set to grip much of Atlantic Canada, so we should see some growth. But typically, January sets the base for ice, and we see growth in February. But if we don't have the base in January, storms like the past one that we just saw will destroy what little ice is there. And then you basically start all over again.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, okay. And I think you're going to have something more on that next week.
Yeah, we're going to dive a little bit into the ice around the province next week. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so it's Friday. The weekend is here.
It is.
What's on the way?
Well, it's looking pretty nice, in fact, out there across the province. Some cold air is going to move in, though, which you either take it or you leave it. But let's take a look at the temperatures today. I'm telling you, today was not cold. Well above where we should be sitting this time of year. 7 or 8 degrees for a good chunk of the island, even the northern peninsula and southeastern Labrador. Cartwright, 4 degrees. That was your daytime high. That was overnight last night. But that cold air is lurking and it will move in as we head through the weekend. Just taking a look at what's going on right now. Area of low pressure that brought that snow, that rain, the wind is offshore now, and in fact those winds are starting to ease. But if we zoom out, you can see all of that cold air across Canada. This polar vortex is essentially what it is, but that is going to stick around for a few days. And we've got this low. This is an Alberta clipper. That is going to be our weather maker, especially across Labrador as we head through at least the weekend. It looks like that will start to bring in some snow. Also going to continue to see that cold air right along with it. Now, as far as snowfall amounts, not super significant. You don't typically see a lot of precipitation with Alberta clippers, but you do see snow, all snow, and some fluffy snow as well, because we're seeing those colder temperatures. So somewhere between 2 to 5 centimeters is possible, maybe some pockets of a little bit higher through the Saturday and Sunday time frame. Now, as far as those winds are concerned, still a bit gusty out there. This is the current winds across coastal areas of Labrador, 40 or 50 kilometers per hour. And then 67 kilometers per hour right now in Bonavista. You factor in those wind gusts, more like 80. And as we head through the night tonight, those winds will eventually ease, especially as we get into the early morning hours on Saturday. Across the island, going to stay a bit brisk for those of you in Lab West. That will continue across Labrador and then pick up again as we head into Sunday afternoon, pretty much across the board. Those widespread gusts somewhere between say 50 or 60 kilometers per hour. And some areas, especially in the northern peninsula, you may see those winds gusting 70 or even 80 kilometers per hour. So just taking a look at the satellite, not a whole lot happening. We do have some flurries, though, in onshore flow along the west coast. Very typical of this time of year for sure, especially when we start to see some of that colder air move in, and it will be chilly. Even though those daytime highs were quite high, they are going to drop minus double digits overnight tonight for central, west coast, northern peninsula, along the south coast and eastern Newfoundland. Those temperatures will be in the minus single digits, and then cold up across Labrador as well. Minus 31 will be the overnight low in Lab City. Now, the good thing is we may see some clear skies, which means we could potentially see this rare green comet that's going to pass Earth. I'm just going to step out of here so you can see it's visible right through early February, and it's going to be the closest to Earth on February 2nd. However, we're getting close to a full moon, so it'll be a bit difficult to see it. So if you can head out now and your skies are clear, it's a good idea. You're going to want to look to the north sky and also towards the Little Dipper. It should just be north of the Little Dipper there. If you do see it, you're probably going to need some binoculars or a telescope, and you're really going to have to be in and away from the light pollution across the province. So it could be fun. This hasn't been visible in 50,000 years. The last time it was visible, there was an ice age. So definitely something to check out. And it's going to appear green. So if you have the chance to see it, you're certainly going to want to. Like I said, visibility may be a little hard, but there should be some pockets of clear skies in and around the midnight hour, and that's the best time to see it because the moon will set by then. Otherwise, flurries will continue along the west coast. Then that snow will move in through the day tomorrow across Labrador, bring some snow as well to the west coast as we head through the afternoon on Sunday, and then that will move through, leaving a pretty beautiful Sunday on tap. As far as your Saturday afternoon temperatures are concerned, we'll sit into the minus single digits, sunshine, a good chance of sunshine, which will be nice. And then as we head towards the west coast again, those flurries will continue for the most part. Then for Labrador, there's that warm up I was talking about, -7 for Lab City through the day on Saturday. Winds a bit brisk as well, somewhere between 30 to 50 kilometers per hour. In the coastal areas of Labrador, back down to the minus teens. But there is a lot of cold air. In fact, talking about the potential for -30s and -40s as we get into next week. I'll break the full long-range forecast down for you coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, the CBC's Adam Walsh and his crew at the radio show Crosstalk left the studio in St. John's today and headed downtown. They were checking out MusicNL's new space called Play on Gower. Have a look.
Hi, it's Adam Walsh, host and producer of CBC Crosstalk. We just finished a great show at MusicNL's new location. They're calling it Play on Gower because it's inside Gower Street United Church. So check out who we spoke with.
We're in a bit of a construction zone. We are making this into the most amazing creative downtown hub for our members and the community that we serve.
We, as a church and congregation, we had a plan or a vision for the church that involved a lot more rental activity here at Gower for the financial benefit of the church, but also just to bring in performers, groups, other great organizations to partner with. And I reached out to Rhonda because I knew her personally and said, hey, listen, do you know anyone that could help us maybe grow rental opportunities? And Rhonda said, I got a better idea. Said, how about we just move in to your space? So it was a connection and it was an idea that led to something that we weren't originally looking for, but we're just delighted for where we're headed.
This is really exciting. So obviously we're just getting used to this brand new amazing space downtown. Our Play on Gower space was under renovation. Our wall is now up. We are starting to get settled in, and we're having open office hours here on Monday afternoons and Wednesday mornings. So if people want to pop in and just say hello, get to know the new space, someone will be here during those times. But of course we service the whole province, so people can't always get to us here physically. So we've created a really cool virtual office that we will be launching next week. It's with the app called Gather. Very new startup that I guess it came up because of the pandemic, because so many people were working remotely. It's basically like a video game. It looks like Pokemon, like a top-down video game, and we all have our cute little offices, and we all have decorations and plants on our little desks. And go-karts, and we're gonna really try to explore what is possible in this virtual space to be able to connect people from Labrador, people from the West Coast, without having to be there physically, so that we can have a press conference with a performer from Labrador, a performer from Gander, who comes in and does a performance for our virtual press conference. So we're really trying to create that pan-provincial identity, because we are MusicNL, so we represent the whole province, and this is just a great way to help us service our province better.
go in with the triage nurse and she'll do the assessment. And if it's determined that it's a mental health crisis, then a mental health professional will come and continue that triage.
Health officials break down for Here and Now exactly how the new emergency room will work at the Health Sciences Center when mental and physical health services come together in one area. When the new mental health and addictions facility opens, it will replace the old Waterford Hospital. But there will be another change. When someone experiences a mental health crisis, they'll have to go to the general emergency room at the Health Sciences Center, the same ER space where there are people with physical emergencies. The idea of treating mental and physical emergencies in the same area has one mental health advocate concerned. Earlier this week, we heard from Sarah Hillier, who has firsthand experience being treated at the Waterford Hospital during a mental health crisis. She thinks this change could be a deterrent for people seeking help.
For me, honestly, I don't think I would have went, period. I just don't think that I would have put myself in a situation where I am also adding to the stress and the amount of work for general emergencies. Being in a position where you're in a mental health crisis, it's really hard to advocate for yourself. So even just going to an emergency room is a huge step, which is really hard to take. And I think adding that pressure of being in a room where there's so many other people that need help, it can be discouraging. So just adding to that, I think I personally probably would never have gone.
So let's find out exactly how this will work. Joining me now is Patrick Whalen, who's the Regional Director of Mental Health and Addictions, and Daniel Parsons, the Director of Engineering and Planning. So first of all, can you help us imagine what it would be like for someone who is having a mental health crisis? They decide they want to go to the emergency room. They show up and another person who's having a physical emergency shows up at the same time. Maybe that person has a pain in the chest. Can you walk us through the process?
The way that this will occur is that when an individual shows up at our emergency department, they will immediately go to our triage room. So there'll be an amount of privacy in that room, and the registration will actually occur there. So a little bit different than what occurs now. The individual will be triaged with a mental health professional. They will determine whether that individual is a certain priority, depending on what priority they are, and they will be determined to either go back to the generalized waiting room or flow through to sub-waiting rooms within the emergency department and the psychiatric assessment unit component of the emergency department. Individuals that come in who are in crisis, just like they are today, will immediately go into that sub-waiting room or a private assessment area to continue on with their care.
So if someone presents with a mental health crisis, someone else presents with a physical injury or chest pain or whatever, at any point could those two people be sitting next to each other in the one room, emergency room, waiting room?
Yes, there could be. Like I said, it really depends on their triage level. So if they're triaged and determined they can go back to the general waiting room, they may have to go wait for a short time, and they may be sitting next to somebody that has a physical health need. But again, that's a way to normalize health, that mental health is health.
So at any point, if there's any change in that client, they're always able to come back up and, speak to a healthcare professional. And, if that condition changes or worsens over time throughout that waiting, while you're out in that waiting area, that can change your triage level, and that may move you into a safe space inside the facility.
Just to go back to some of the concerns that Sarah Hillier had raised, she's concerned that if she were to go to that emergency room, that she would be lumped in with the other people who are having those physical emergencies. And she said that she doesn't know that she would have sought out help if that had been the case, if this new setup had been in place when she was in a mental health crisis. What do you say about those concerns?
Yeah, I think that if someone comes with that level of mental health crisis, like they would generally be put into the sub-waiting area or into an assessment room. I don't think that they would be put back out into the generalized waiting area. And similar to what Daniel said, if at any time that crisis increases, you can always go back to discuss this with the health professional, with the triage area, and be integrated into further into the other waiting areas.
When you come to the facility, you come to the one triage, that one reception space. But once you enter the facility, the departments are co-located, but they are separate departments. There are a dedicated space for the psychiatric assessment unit and dedicated space to the physical emergency. So, once you're inside the facility, you're not lumped together. We still have the proper infrastructure to meet the needs of the clients that are facing mental health crisis as well as physical health issue.
I mean, you are building this brand new facility. Why not give it its own dedicated emergency room? How much of a role did cost play in that decision?
So to proceed in this way and actually co-locating with the existing emergency department and separating it out of the existing contract for the larger facility, the actual cost to do it this way would be higher. We are extending the existing health science center and giving the the smaller scale of that extension compared to a large new construction facility, the capital cost of that is slightly higher. But the value that you gain and the synergies back and forth between the physical and the mental health emergency is why we strove, and that feedback that we gained from those clients with lived experiences, that's why we made the conscious decision to co-locate those two departments.
When we started to design the mental health facility, the new mental health facility, we had individuals with lived experiences, community groups such as LifeWise, previously Channel, and our Client Family Advisory Committee to discuss whether it would be of benefit to have the psychiatric assessment unit located as a standalone in our new facility, or to have it as a part of the general emergency department. And it was determined by individuals with lived experience, our community partners, and our Client Family Advisory Councils that this was the right decision to make, that they wanted to really promote that health is health.
Well, hopefully this will help people understand a bit more how this is going to work. Patrick Whalen and Daniel Parsons, thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
Adonai shema v'koli kivete Adonai kiveta nafshi.
Well, this is International Holocaust Remembrance Day, when the world remembers the 6 million Jewish people who were murdered before and during the Second World War. Today, 78 years after it was liberated by Soviet forces, survivors and other mourners gathered at the Auschwitz-Birkenau State Museum in Poland. More than 1 million people were murdered by the Nazis in this camp alone. This museum is located 300 kilometers from the Ukraine border, and speakers at the service spoke of the war there and their hopes that peace will be restored in Europe. More news after the break. A large area of Cape Breton will soon be co-governed in what is believed to be the first agreement of its kind in Nova Scotia. The provincial government and the Mi'kmaq of Nova Scotia have signed an agreement to co-manage the Gluskap Wilderness area in Cape Breton. The agreement was made public earlier this week in Wagmatcook. The CBC's Amy McNeil was there.
Thousands gathered at the Wagmatcook Cultural and Heritage Centre to learn about the collaboration to manage the Gluskap Wilderness area. It is nearly 2,800 hectares of forest. That area includes Gluskap's Cave, which is a sacred Mi'kmaq site. Gluskap is considered a great prophet to the Mi'kmaq people, and the cave is considered the center of the universe, where Gluskap is said to return one day. Wagmatcook Chief Norman Bernard works with 5 Mi'kmaq communities on natural resources issues. Bernard says his elder told him that she was proud of the agreement.
She said, I'd never in my day would see this event coming up, that the province would like to co-share our lands.
It wasn't just Bernard who felt this agreement was special. After visiting the wilderness area, the province's environment minister says he felt a special connection and says he has a lot to learn from the Mi'kmaq.
The building of those relationships, the building of those trusts, the telling of those stories, the working together towards a common goal, it begins today.
The new agreement outlines the terms that will see the wilderness area become part of the Gluskap's Cave Indigenous Protected and Conserved Area. That means the land will continue to be protected from things like logging and other development, and that Mi'kmaq leaders will have a say in the future of the land. The agreement was signed by government officials and Mi'kmaq chiefs. After that, there was an exchange of gifts. Bernard says making the agreement felt good as a leader.
We have to live together in Nova Scotia, and we have to work together for a better future. We're getting our land, as I always say, piece by piece back to us, and that's important.
Bernard says the agreement marks another step towards the Mi'kmaq being part of the decision-making process for the land they have been stewards of for generations. Amy McNeil, CBC News, Wagmatcook.
Memphis, Tennessee, and all of the U.S. are waiting for the release tonight of a police video and what reaction it brings. It will show the events leading up to a black man's death, a death in which 5 officers are charged with second-degree murder. The CBC's Cameron McIntosh reports.
So far, the memorials and demonstrations have been peaceful, but Memphis is bracing for outrage with the imminent release of the video of the police beating of Tyree Nichols. His family preemptively calling for calm.
We do not want any type of uproar. We do not want any type of disturbance. We want peaceful protests.
Speaking this afternoon, Nichols' family had little to say about the video, which has been described as cruel and inhumane. Nichols, a 29-year-old father, died in hospital 3 days after being pulled over for alleged reckless driving. An altercation happened. Police beat, tased, and pepper sprayed him. 5 officers have been fired, charged with second-degree murder, accused of brutality against a black man. The officers are also black.
Justice for Tyree! Justice for Tyree!
The family and their lawyers are lauding the quick charges while insisting this become the new standard in police brutality cases, regardless of the officer's race.
It doesn't matter if the officer is a black officer, a Hispanic officer, or a white officer. It is the culture that allows them to think they can do this to Tyree.
As for the video, the Memphis police chief warns,
you're going to see acts that defy humanity. You're going to see a disregard for life.
It's not just Memphis on edge. In Washington, the Capitol building is being fenced off. President Biden saying he expects outrage. Nichols' mother insisting the family wants change.
I just want to ask for prayer for my family, for this whole community.
The timing of the release is all about the expected anger, the idea that putting it out on a Friday night, people will already be home from work or school and less likely to get caught up in whatever might happen. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Washington.
Fireball Whiskey is facing a class action lawsuit for allegedly misleading customers because their mini bottles sold in gas stations and convenience stores across the U.S. don't actually contain whiskey. Instead, it's made from a blend of malt beverage and wine made to taste like whiskey. Customers are suing for fraud and misleading packaging. We'll be right back with this week's big birthdays and anniversaries. Let's find out who's celebrating. Wishing Will and Shirley Temple of Sunnyside a happy 61st anniversary. Happy 59th anniversary to Edwina and Gerald Andrews from Conception Bay South. 57th anniversary greetings going out to Joe and Ethel Anthony from Seldom. Congratulations to Cletus and Norma Earl, who are celebrating their 50th anniversary. 50th anniversary wishes to Eileen and Onslow Vardy of Grand Falls, Windsor. Happy 51st anniversary to Lloyd and Phoebe Rose of Harbour Breton. Wallace and Minnie Ward of Port Hope Simpson are also marking 51 years of marriage. Congratulations. Happy 56th anniversary to Howard and Doris Brown of Mount Pearl. Happy 50th anniversary to Stanley and Rowena Harris of Harris Point, Gander Bay South. Wishing Harrison and Rosalind White a happy 50th anniversary. Happy anniversary to Max and Alva Wellen of Ladle Cove, who are celebrating 61 years together. Happy 50th anniversary to Rosemary and former MHA Clayton Forsey of Bishops Falls. Congratulations to David and Alice Boland of Manuals. They're celebrating their 55th anniversary. Happy 67th anniversary to Ronald and Agnes Keating from Long Harbor. Wishing Thor and Kathleen McDonald of Corner Brook a happy 50th anniversary. Happy 58th anniversary to Jim and Marie Cotter of Melrose. Congratulations to Abe and Daphne Pittman, who are celebrating their 70th anniversary. Now to some birthdays. Happy 90th birthday to Stuart Button of Silver Fox Island, now living in Mount Pearl. Birthday greetings going out to Nigel Smith of Bishop's Cove, now living in Bay Roberts, who's celebrating his 92nd birthday. Happy 97th birthday to Bruce Simmons of Greens Harbor. Birthday wishes going out to Elmer Gale of Codroy Valley, who's turning 91. Wishing Hubert Yao of St. John's a happy 97th birthday. Birthday greetings going out to Grace Chafe of Gould's. It's her 93rd birthday. Happy 90th birthday to Susie Barrow of Gambo. Happy 90th birthday to Pat Leonard of Benoit's Cove, now living in Corner Brook. Best wishes to Margaret Hillier of Corner Brook, who's celebrating her 90th birthday. Greetings going out to Elsie Guy of Musgrave Harbor, who's celebrating her 94th birthday. Happy 95th birthday to Jack Forward of Buckins. Happy 90th birthday to Sam Gregory of St. John's. Happy birthday to Olive Ellis Smith, who's turning 105 years old. She's from St. Anthony and now lives in Stephenville Crossing. Happy birthday. Happy 96th birthday to Catherine Ronayne of Witless Bay, now living in St. John's. And happy birthday to Phyllis Bishop of Chamberlains, who's turning 96. Another fine crowd. Congratulations once again. Well, drivers in this province know how important it is to watch out for moose on the road. But what would you do if you saw one entangled in a wire fence as you drove by? Well, that scenario played out in Penticton, BC this week. A couple spotted the trapped animal and decided to help. Have a look.
I didn't see her. Right there, right there. Oh, poor thing. She's stuck in the fence.
Anyway, so he said, oh, look, there's tracks in the road. And it's fresh because it was snowing. And he said, oh, it's a moose track. So anyway, we were probably going about 1 kilometer. And then he goes, oh, she's up. There it is.
Well, on the drive to Penticton, we get to run into a moose that needs help. Look at it. It's all tangled in
I just figured, well, I got to get this moose out of here.
It's okay, baby. It's all right. We'll help you.
Actually, I saw it when she tried to jump over the fence. She slipped and wasn't able to clear it. Now, if she would have just tried to walk over it, she probably could have walked over it, no problem. But I don't think she could move at all because I think her front hooves were in there and the back hooves were. The one was really tight. The other one wasn't too bad. So I was able to get the one off fairly easily, but the second one, it was, I guess, because when she got tangled up, then she fell over, sort of like tightened up the wire around her hoof.
Careful she doesn't kick you.
So yeah, it took all the effort I had to bend that wire off.
She's very good. Good girl. Off you go, baby. You're welcome. I know she's thankful.
Did you get that on film?
I did.
held my breath through a lot of that just then. I'm sure that's one very relieved animal, but conservation officers do have a caution here. They say it's common for moose and other wildlife to get trapped in fences during the winter while trying to jump them and then sliding on the snow.
Yeah, and they say you should seek the help of conservation officers instead of trying to rescue the distressed wildlife, as you can easily get seriously hurt.
Yeah, he almost got quite the kick. Oof. Yeah. All right, well, let's move on and have a look at the weather, the long-range forecast. What's on the way as we look into next week?
Yeah, into next week. So we do have a little bit of an Alberta clipper that's going to move through. It's going to bring snow to parts of Labrador Saturday and into Sunday. Let's just take a look at that. You can see the snow there. It's also going to bring some snow towards the west coast as well as the northern peninsula. Not a whole lot of snow, but enough to coat surfaces, that's for sure. And then as we head into Saturday afternoon, we'll see that onshore flurry activity continue for the west coast, but it's actually looking pretty beautiful across the big land and then across a good chunk of the island as well through the day on Sunday. Taking a look at the temperatures. Big drop in temperatures after your -7 on Saturday. Sunday looks much colder than that for those of you in Lab City, down to -25. Towards the coast, though, we're still looking at those temperatures into the minus single digits, and then same thing for the northern peninsula, and actually between 0 and about 3 degrees for the rest of the island on Sunday. Now, as we head into Monday, the next system will move in. This one going to bring some snow as well. And then that will change over to rain as we head through the afternoon hours. At this point, it looks like the eastern half of the island, the west and northwest, as well as along the strait there, should stay as snow through the afternoon on Monday. But again, those temperatures are going to be quite mild for the eastern half of the island. 4 to 6 degrees, it looks like, well below that for the northern peninsula at about -12. And then here's that cold air that will grip the big land, which will be good news for sure for ice conditions, but we're looking at those temperatures into the -20s with lots of sunshine through the day on Monday. Now just take a look at the long range forecast. Monday, Tuesday will be above 0, and then we start to see that drop, and it does look like some indications showing that we're going to see some cooler temperatures as we head into next week, certainly into the beginning of February, the first week of February. Wednesday is the first day of February, if you can believe it, at -4. And then for central Newfoundland, you're looking at flurries or showers again on Tuesday, but by Wednesday, the sunshine would return. It's -7 and overnight lows in the -20s. Now for western Newfoundland, we're looking at flurries pretty much right through Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. -7 will be your daytime high, and then temperatures around -15 as your overnight lows. For eastern Labrador, there's your temperatures. Now we'll see a bit warmer on Wednesday, but overnight lows are going to stay somewhere between -27 and -30. Then the chance of some snow, light snow anyway, on Tuesday. Wednesday will return with that sunshine. And then for western Labrador, we're looking at some sunshine Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Wednesday, the chance of flurries will return. And we're looking at temperatures in the -20s, but look, your overnight lows into the -40s. That's below where you should be sitting this time of year. But February is the coldest month across the island, and January is the coldest month across Labrador. So just something to think about. Here's a great shot. This is some sunshine in Loon Bay there. Michael shared this great shot with me, and lots of photos, I'm sure, out there, especially this weekend with the sunshine, everybody out enjoying it. Maybe some snow up across Labrador. But overall, if you have some great shots, share them with me on my Facebook page, on Twitter, or email them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Yeah, we were talking about the ice earlier in the show. Not a lot of ice there.
No, a little bit of ice there. You can see
bit.
it. My little graphic there is covering it up, but yeah, we'll see more of that for sure. I mean, all indications showing that at least the start of February is going to be quite chilly. That doesn't mean it's going to be all cold. We may see some warm-ups, but overall.
Okay, yeah, I can't believe we're so close to February.
I know.
All right. Well, that's it for us on this Friday evening. Thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us, and hope you have a great weekend.
Good night.